Welcome back to the Sam JW channel. The international break is over and Oxford United's men returned to Championship football this weekend against West Bromwich Albion. Of course, we'll talk about that game in a minute, but before we get into that, I wanted to touch on the really tragic news that we saw over the international break in the lead up to England's game against Greece at Wembley. That the devastating passing of George Baldock at the age of just 31 years old. Look, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know this shocked me, like it did everyone. But it's difficult to explain. But when we hear about people connected to our football club that have passed away, it's always tragic. But if it's players, it's always a sense of they're way before my time, and would have been great to see them play. George Baldock is the first example of an Oxford player I actually watched, a player that I was in the terraces to see play for our football club, and there's a well trodden phrase in football, which is "don't fall in love with a lone player." But as Peter Brown put it before the minute's silence for George yesterday at the game, we did fall in love with George. Obviously, there's so many connections to this football club. George and his two brothers. James, who's still the club doctor. Sam, who retired as an Oxford United player and has gone on to be a development coach at Brighton. All of them were Oxford youth members. They come on football, played at the Manor Ground. This was their football club. This is their boyhood club. And George's passing has really hit this football club hard. Obviously, it was a couple of years ago, and he's only with us for a matter of months, over two loan spells in 2015. But George was a special player. Whenever we speak about the best right back to ever play for Oxford United, especially modern fans like myself, first person that always comes into our head is George Baldock. His graft, his talent. Obviously, there were some really talented players in that lineup. George always seemed like this is a lad that would go on to great things, and he was always we always looked at him like, this lad is too good for us in League Two at the time. It obviously absolutely heartbreaking for George to pass away. Every sympathy I have goes out to James and Sam Baldock and Sam's George's partner, George's child, the rest of the Baldock family. Someone truly special in football, but according to all those that met him, a truly special human being was lost. And like I say, it's it's one of those that forces you to appreciate life even further. So, George, thank you for everything you did, and rest in peace, mate. But let's get on to Oxford United's game against West Bromwich Albion. Of course, first game back after the international break, off the back of 3 draws against Burnley, against Luton and against Portsmouth. Look, there's obviously a lot of stuff we'll talk about when we get into the match stats and the flow of the game. This was a game that I was dreading because just the firepower that West Brom have, and of course another pretty big club, another club that for the most time I've been watching football I've known as a Premier League outfit. And yeah, it was another really tough test for Des and the side, but another one where we've shown we're absolutely capable of competing with some of the top sides in this division. So if we have a look at the lineups that we saw, of course, at Grenoble Road, we can see that for the most part our lineup stayed the same. Jamie Cumming, of course, keeping his place in goal. Peter Kioso and Kieran Brown maintaining their spots as the fullbacks. Ben Nelson and Elliot Moore thankfully recovered from their slight knocks in the Luton and the Portsmouth game respectively. Will Vaulks continued his place in the 6, El Mazzuni in the 8 and Rodriguez in the 10. A little surprised Ruben Rodriguez kept his spot, as I said, after the Portsmouth game. I think Louis Sibley had earned his starting berth, but again we'll talk about Sibley's performance in a bit. But again, I think another good performance by Louis Sibley, where maybe he should be starting against obviously Derby, who are his former club, but not just because it's his former club, on merit, I believe. Siriki Dembele, Tyler Goodrum and Mark Harris being the typical attacking 3 for Oxford United. In terms of West Brom's lineup, obviously Josh Maja is the danger man. Tom Vella is a fantastic little player, a great future ahead of him. Grady Dean Garner is a spectacular wide man who's been moved inside by Carlos Corberán. Grant's an interesting one. Obviously, he was out on loan at Portsmouth last season, and a lot thought that would be the end of his West Brom career. But he's been brought back in by Carlos Corberán, and you know, there's obviously some very good players. We know Alex Moat very, very well, of course. And it's overall a very, very strong, you know, top half, if not top 6 championship squad. If we look at the first half and the way that played out, no doubt that, you know, West Brom, they came out of the blocks really looking to put us under pressure, get that early goal to try and put it to bed as quick as possible. Obviously, there were a couple of similarities to the Burnley game, I think, in the sense that the way we weren't able to make certain moves stick. I thought Ben Nelson did really, really well, especially in this first half. The way he covered it for Kieran Brown when Kieran would venture forward. I thought Ben Nelson had a fantastic first half. That being said, there was a couple of occasions where misplaced passes would go straight to a West Brom player, and that would then create a shooting opportunity. What was interesting though is the West Brom were much more keen on that extra pass, that extra move to before the strike. Very much thinking on along the lines of you know, you look at a Pep Guardiola team where they want to almost, sometimes it feels like they want to walk the ball into the back of the net, when there's a lot of times, a lot of efforts you can see on here, a lot of efforts on the shot map are outside the area from West Brom, from players that have just decided, look, there's no movement going on in the area, so I'm just going to strike from range. Obviously the goal comes from Grant. A lot of space is allowed to him. I don't know why he's allowed to go. He's allowed to drift inside so much before taking the strike. Jamie Cumming gets down to it, but is not able to get a hand to it, and West Brom lead 1-0. As you can see, other than the extra 2 shots that West Brom had, it's a fairly balanced game. There's 1 or 2, I think, pretty decent opportunities that that Oxford have. There's an effort from Mark Harris where the ball's floated over the top to him, and he manages to take it down, but then takes it a little wide, and is then collected by Palmer in the West Brom goal. We'll get onto it in a minute, but there's a lot of very soft fouls that are awarded by the ref. Look, I'm not going to complain about the incident that happens in the lead up to the Grant goal. Dembele makes a challenge that maybe could be penalised. Then I think it's Ratic makes a challenge that on Dembele which could be penalised before his pass through to Grant, who's had too much space to run, and then strikes it from the edge of the. I'm not going to complain about that one because, like I say, it's a very much, you know, Dembele's been allowed to get away with one, and then same is said for the West Brom man. But there is an incident in the first half which I think was indicative of how poor a game the referee was going to have. So I think it's 42nd minute. We're in the starting to look like in the ascendancy, moving the ball forward, and the ball is played out from, I believe it's Idris El Mazouni, to Siriki Dembele. Dembele knocked it back into Ruben Rodriguez, and he looks to go past Furlong, and Furlong just puts his hand on Dembele's face, shoves him over, and referee gives nothing. Look, you could say that it's, that's defensive now from Furlong, but it's a foul. He's seen a man running at him, he's just put his hand on his face and shoved him down, and referee's given nothing. Referee had a poor game. I thought that this was this was a trait that would stick in League One, but it's, it permeates throughout the entirety of the EFL. I don't mind officials being shit, but if they're inconsistently shit, that's when problems arise. If you're consistently giving away or giving soft fouls and giving, those kind of awarding those kind of fouls, fine, but do it for both sets, because there are a lot of opportunities. I'm not one that I've not mentioned refs pretty much at all in the vast majority of the videos we've done so far, and that's because I don't like blaming referees. But this ref was particularly shocking for both sets. There were some fouls that Ruben gave away, or should have given away, that El Mazouni could have given away. Will Volks could have been penalised once or twice. Tyler Goodrum, there was a little scuffle on the right hand side that maybe he should have been penalised for, but the ref didn't, because he was just that overall crap. And that is the ultimate sin, in my view, for an official, is being inconsistent in how shit you are. Like I say, that's the last word I'm going to say on the referee, but I think we all know, both Oxford and West Brom fans, that this ref was particularly crap. Going into half-time, I thought there was very much a sense of, okay, we were starting to maybe build into the latter stage of the first half, I should say. Maybe we can continue that momentum into the rest of the game. If we look at the momentum chart here, West Brom, a lot of kind of pretty high peaks here towards the end of the end of the half. Then we start to kind of look a little bit better. There was a point, I think it was with about 25 minutes to go, that West Brom decided to just sit back and accept the 1-0 win, kind of, just sit on what they've got, and that invited pressure from Oxford. Second half was ever so slightly weighted in our favour, not an awful lot. A lot of very promising moves. There was we'll look at the substitutes in a minute, but I thought Dane Scarlett and Malcolm Abui looked really lively, really looking to get into the game, and like I say, there was a lot of those kind of bright sparks that none really resulted in a shot, in an opportunity, really. West Brom also, like I say, if we look at a lot of these are towards the these two particularly, after we've we've gone this one here, after we've gone level, and Wallace has just gone for a shot because you're thinking we need to get this the lead back, but a lot of kind of not great opportunities here from West Brom players, and that was it. I think the Rakic, that's the first half, I believe it was Rakic had the strike, and it's a fantastic save by Jamie Cumming, but a lot of very ineffective opportunities from West Brom. Again, there was not an awful lot to separate these two sides, and the reality is that, quite fittingly for the day, it was a substitute that had the all-important impact for Oxford United. The subs, we brought in Louis Sibley, Dane Scarlett, Malcolm Abui and Owen Dale. Owen got all of about 10 minutes, so we're not going to talk about him massively. But like I say, I thought Louis Sibley was overall pretty decent. Again, the way he moves the ball, the way he links up with the wide men, I think is fantastic. Like Malcolm Abui, I also thought, like I say, I thought was really lively. A lot more willingness to run at his man, which looked like Tyler Goodrum and Sorokin and Bader were a little bit lacking of yesterday. But Abui was getting in those key areas. A couple of fantastic opportunities where against Hagan and Bartley down the wide areas, he kind of got to the edge of the area, bolted to the halfway line, and then to the byline, I should say. And it's just trying to find that incisive pass into an Oxford shirt. Of course, the man of the moment, Dane Scarlett. It's a very interesting thing with Dane Scarlett because obviously this is his best performance in Oxford shirt. He scores, his work rate was increased from previous performances. But I also thought that Dane, coming off the back of that extra bit of confidence, having scored his first goal for the England youth side in the week, Dane seemed to have that extra motivation, that extra kind of drive to contribute here. Of the ball, the goal comes long throw from Will Vokes, which is not something we've used an awful lot this season, but it floats in. Elliot Moore flicks it on, and there is Dane Scarlett, who is actually a little bit off balance. He kind of has to kind of arch himself to get his head back and then head it into the back of the net. It's a really awkward kind of header because it looked like in the Jim Smith end that we were going to that it was going to go wide, but it nestles into the back of the net, and Oxford United are level. Obviously, I believe it's fully deserved that we're level, given the chances that we create. Have a slightly higher percentage and quality of chances than West Brom, but it was not an exceptionally quality performance from either set of players. I will say that I thought the way Des used this sub, I thought was really smart. Obviously, bringing off Suikin and Belly, bringing off Ruben Rodriguez, who weren't looking entirely effective. Mark Harris, he got a little knock in the first half, which looked to kind of it looked to affect how Mark was going about the game, because I think he there was one or two very soft fouls given against him that kind of seemed to suck any enthusiasm, any bite that he had out of that game. So it was a good choice to bring Dane on when he did, give him that extra bit of a run out, about half an hour to get in his legs, which will be really helpful for Dane when it comes to being able to come off the bench and impact games going forward. Look, like I say, I think it's very much I think it's a fair point between the two sides. I have seen a lot of West Brom fans looking at their reactions and their kind of thoughts on the game, them talking about how, this just, we've got to be beating these sides, we want to have, go up automatically, you can't be coming here and drawing. But look, I'll say what I said after Burnley. Oxford United are still unbeaten at Grenoble Road. Oxford only conceded 2 goals at Grenoble Road. This is a side that there is just something different about this Oxford team at Grenoble Road. It's not an easy place to come. From our point of view, that's exactly what we need. Home form is so important in a campaign looking for survival, and that's the main aim for this season. In fact, the only aim is to survive in the Championship and maintain our status. We're not going to make it easy for you. No side is going to make it easy for you when you go to their home patch where they build their foundations. And we've seen that, very strong home form, we've been able to then slightly at the minute transfer that onto finally picking up some points away from home. This is very much a case of any of the, we've had the visit of Norwich, we beat them. Preston, who are, looking kind of lower end of mid-table, they came to Grenoble Road, we beat them. Stoke beat them, and we've managed to get a point against Burnley and West Brom, 2 sides looking for automatic places. But Championship fans, you need to get into your heads that it's not going to be an easy game when you come to Grenoble Road. Like I say, we're coming up to November. Obviously, we've got the Derby game on Tuesday night, but we're coming up to November, and Oxford are still unbeaten at home. And that's a very, very very, you could say rare, you could say admirable quality to a newly promoted side. The fact, they have turned their home ground into a fortress, and we often talk about that towards the back end of a season, when a team is looking for those big points to stay in a league. It's about turning your home ground into a fortress. Well, Oxford have done that, and Oxford are looking to do that at the first, in the first couple of months. So, it make it even harder when teams come to Grenoble Road. If say, for example, just hypothetically speaking, we go into February and we're still unbeaten at home, think about how much of a psychological pressure that is for an away side. Obviously, there will be, on the one hand, the desire to end the run, but to go and think they've gone from August until February, just using that as an example, as I say, they've gone between those times still unbeaten at home, is, that's an incredibly rare thing. We're talking about how vital these points are going to be. Burnley, West Brom, Luton and Portsmouth coming from behind away from home. It's so vital picking up these points. Was it the performance? No. We do need to be better on the ball, especially against the bigger sides, against the better sides, the more talented squads. But we're managing to pull out those results, and Dane getting a goal is massive for him. It's massive for the squad in terms of showing Mark that as much as we love you, mate, there is a lot of pressure on your shoulders now. We have got Dane, Scarlett. Will Goodwin is hopefully going to be back fit at some point soon, so we can throw him in. We can go from two, quickish, poacher-esque strikers to a big target man style, where we can start to use some of the crosses into the area. We need that variety, that versatility in our play to be able to stay in this division. But let me know your thoughts on the performance. And yeah, of course, we will see you on Tuesday night for the visit of Derby County. Obviously, Derby, like ourselves, have just come up, and they're looking pretty good. It's certainly a obviously our record is slightly better because they got their first draw on Saturday against Millwall, but they're in as good a position as we are. It's going to be a tricky one. Obviously, last season we were a win apiece. We beat them at Pride Park. They beat us at Grenoble Road after we were 2-0 up inside 15 minutes. 2 set pieces from Cameron Brannigan, but we started to tire in that game. But hopefully we can. We're much better prepared side than we were the side that Derby faced last time out. So hopefully we can get a big point or 3 points to continue the unbeaten run at home. And it's going to be a really interesting test, this one, because obviously we've seen how we fared against one of the promoted sides. Now we're going to see how we fare against the other. Let me know your thoughts on the 1-1 draw with West Bromwich Albion in the comments down below. Thank you so much for all the support on the channel so far, and I'll see you on Tuesday night.